Today we have a 2025 MINI Cooper John Cooper Works. In this video, I'll talk about what this new 4th generation MINI Cooper is, how I feel about the interior space, and what it's like to drive it. Now, 2025 marks the debut of 4th generation MINI Cooper hatch, and while it looks like a completely new model inside and out, it's actually a very deep facelift of the previous generation. The car still sits on BMW's UK L1 platform, which means we get a strut front suspension and a multilink setup in the back, combined with either regular passive dampers or adaptive ones, depending on the trim. Now, under the hood, we'll always find a B48 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, which makes 161 horsepower in the Cooper variant, 201 in the Cooper S, or 228 horses in the top John Cooper Works that we have today. MINI also offers a fully electric variant built on a dedicated EV platform, a Cooper E, Cooper SE, or John Cooper Works Electric, which respectively offer 181, 215, and 255 horsepower. But MINI hasn't confirmed yet if they're bringing this car to the US. So back to the gas-powered Cooper. Unfortunately, a 6-speed manual transmission is gone, even in the John Cooper Works variant, and we only get a 7-speed dual clutch, which obviously transfers the power to front wheels only, and we have an open diff. Pricing starts at around $29,000 for the base Cooper, $32,000 for the Cooper S, and it tops at a little over $43,000 for the tested John Cooper Works. Now, before we talk what it's like to drive this thing on our favorite back road, let's take a look inside and talk about the interior space. Okay, so we're inside the new MINI Cooper. Now, I'll say right away, this new 4th generation doesn't feel as special as it used to. It's much more simple, there's less happening, but it still cannot be mistaken with any other car. You know, it's a MINI, and at the end of the day, it feels refreshing to be in a cabin that doesn't feel generic. The quality isn't necessarily top-notch. It's a typical entry-level BMW product with lots of hard-touch plastic, but we do get some premium flares. The materials used inside are acceptable for this type of car, and everything is well put together. Now, just like other Minis, the new Cooper received a new infotainment system featuring an OLED display, and my first impressions are pretty positive. While the interface requires some time getting used to, the system seems to be stable. It has very nice graphics and animations. It supports wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but unfortunately, just like in the case of entry-level BMWs, we lost the physical controller, so the system is touch only. Another thing that's gone in the new Cooper is the gauge cluster, which can actually be seen as a back to the roots since old Minis only had their gauges in the middle. In higher trims, we get a head-up display, which kind of replaces its role, showing you your speed, turn right turn directions from the navigation system, or simple notifications. The storage across the cabin is pretty good for such a small car with a practical center console, but the trunk is rather tiny with its 9 cubic feet of space, but that's kind of expected. Now, the seating position, typically for a MINI, is great, and being 6'1", I feel comfortable behind the wheel. You can sit relatively low to the ground, and the seats provides an okay support and comfort for what they are. I would still expect at least inflatable bolsters in the John Cooper Works. Now, moving to the back seat will not blow your mind. We're talking about a MINI at the end of the day, but if you're a tiny adult, I want to say 5 feet tall, you should be able to fit back there. Well, that was the cabin of the new MINI Cooper, so let's get it on the road now and see how it drives. Whoa. Why is the exhaust so quiet, man? Dang. Okay, so we are behind the wheel of the new MINI Cooper JCW. Now, the first time when I was exposed to MINI Cooper was a little over a decade ago. I drove my cousin's Cooper S, which was a 2nd generation new MINI Cooper, and I fell in love with it. I felt that nimbleness, that mechanical feel, and I understood why MINI has such loyal following. Now, I can already tell you that the new generation is not what the 2nd gen used to be. The car is much more refined, much more isolated, but it still retained some of that MINI fun factor. So with that, let's put it into the go-kart mode. Our drive modes are experiences. Okay, DSC is gonna be reduced. You can put the transmission into sport, use boost mode, and wow! All right, this thing is quick. The B48 never disappoints. It's one of my favorite 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinders on the market, and it's simply amazing. Delivers power in a very linear fashion, has plenty of torque. I mean, this thing is a torque monster. Basically generates diesel-like amounts of torque and really gets this Cooper going. Now, I do have 2 complaints about the drivetrain. The first one is the exhaust. What you guys hear now, those pops and bangs, are generated through speakers. Yep, that is true. It's all synthetic, and it's a disappointment because Mini proved in the past that they can make good sounding 4-cylinders. I mean, all JCWs had very cool exhaust note, and unfortunately that's not the case in the new model. You can obviously turn off that fake engine sound, but I left it on just so you guys can experience this. Another one is the 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Unfortunately, manual is no longer offered. We're stuck with the 7-speed DCT, and it's pretty average. When we drive aggressively, there is a noticeable torque dip in between the shifts, and when we take off the line without launch control, the clutch is slipping, then it gauges, and it's a little disappointing. You're trying to merge onto a road from a stop sign, you floor it, and then nothing happens for the first 2-3 seconds, then the engine gets going. So yeah, I'm of an opinion that if you give me an automatic transmission as my only option, just make it good like Volkswagen does in their GTI. But let's talk how this thing handles. First of all, steering, it's super quick. The car listens to all of your inputs, but unfortunately we don't get any feedback back. That's your typical Mini/BMW product. Basically, 0 feedback. I have no idea what's going on with the front axle when tires start to lose grip. So yeah, that's something that I wish was different, but the chassis tuning is amazing. Noticeable body roll, but it's fine. It's crazy how I can toss this thing around corners, and there's something that I like about hot hatches. I'm a rear-wheel drive guy, but I really like powerful hot hatches. The brakes are also pretty good. We can modulate the braking power pretty precisely. So yeah, the chassis tuning minus the feedback is pretty darn good. Wow. It doesn't feel as lightweight as old Minis did, but it's still super nimble. Noticeable understeer here. So probably one of the first things I would do with my JCW would be some alignment changes, maybe a little bit more pressure in rear tires. But yeah, out of the box, we get a pretty good package that you can take to autocross and have plenty of fun. Alrighty, enough of that. Let's talk about what it's like to drive the new JCW on a daily basis. Let's pick a personal mode. First of all, it also is a positive surprise. I wasn't expecting the JCW to be as comfortable as it is. The suspension does a pretty good job soaking up the road imperfections. Whenever we hit any bumps, the car nicely absorbs them. It does it pretty quietly. The ride comfort is pretty acceptable. We have to keep in mind that we have a car that has a shorter wheelbase, so when the road gets very busy, the car starts to bounce. When we go on a highway over expansion joints, there's gonna be that bounciness, but hey, this is a subcompact car. It's not a mid-size sedan that is meant to be comfortable. But even when you get on a highway, you're gonna find out that it's pretty well isolated. Not much road noise coming inside. There's wind noise because of the boxy shape and all of the windows, but you can easily do 80, 85 miles an hour. And you can surf as that, one all-around car. It's pretty practical because it's a hatch. You can drop the rear seat. I was actually just helping my parents move, and they were like, "Are you taking your Volvo?" I'm like, "You know what? Let's take the Mini, see how much stuff we can put in it." And I was actually surprised how practical this thing was. Also, for a BMW product, we have a very good technology, all the safety systems that we expect, adaptive cruise control, lane centering, blind spot monitoring. We even get parking sensors and a 360-degree camera, which are not necessary in a small car like that, but they're nice to have. Living with this thing is pretty good. I really like it. I wish it was maybe more mechanical, but on the other hand, I'm glad that Mini decided to release the 4th generation and bring it to the US, because there isn't many cars like that. So with that, let's head into the final thoughts and summarize this thing. All right, fellas, summing up the new Mini Cooper hatch. Now, as a true Mini loyalist, you may not be entirely happy with it. A 6-speed manual gearbox is no longer offered, the car feels more isolated, meaning you don't feel as connected to it as you used to, and with all the new technology and bells and whistles, it clearly shows that Mini is going in a direction of making more upscale products, dropping some of its hot hatch properties. But if you still want to have something that's small, fun to drive, and is very customizable, well, basically, the new Mini Cooper is the only option in the US market. Anyways, if you guys have any questions about this thing, drop a comment and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all later.